With E3 having just wrapped up, us gamers have a lot to look forward to regarding AAA titles and indie games alike. Most of us have that one game we absolutely need. And then of course there are those of us with so much to be excited about, we can already hear our credit cards wailing in agony from the confines of our wallets. But hey, that's a good problem to have, right? As for me, I fall somewhere in the middle of these camps. There are so many games I want, but some more than others, so I decided to rank them all. Why not? Good excuse for a top 10, right? So this is my top 10 most anticipated video games. Subtitle, as of the weekend following E3 2016, the conference where lots of crabs. There were a lot of crabs in each conference for some reason. I don't know why. So there's this game I like, and I know I'm not the only one. In fact, a lot of people like it. It's called Journey. Came out for the PlayStation 3 back in 2012. Might have heard of it. And it has since been lauded many a time for, well, nearly everything about it. Since that game's release, that game company has kept pretty silent, but its former art director, Matt Nava, has gone on to create a very like-minded company in Giant Squid. Its first game, Journey, Deep Sea Edition, otherwise known as Abzu. We saw this game for the first time back at Sony's 2014 presentation, but it's been mostly quiet since. Although it didn't make it on the big screen this year, we now have a release date, gameplay, and, well, yeah, it's still underwater Journey. But considering how fantastic and atmospheric that game is, I don't see how that makes it such a bad inspiration. If I can get just as lost and enthralled in the deep blue sea as I somehow did in a vast empty field of sand, well shoot, that just makes it sound easy. If there were ever a popular and beloved series I could not bring myself to love and enjoy in the same way, it's Mass Effect. The way its sci-fi setting and structure played out never gripped me in the way Halo and Star Wars have, and I couldn't be bothered to get used to the intricacies in combat. Now that the trilogy has come to a close, BioWare has decided to take us on a completely different adventure within the same universe. I still didn't care until I saw the trailer, read up on the details, and, well, now I'm pretty excited. The new setting and scope, alongside the apparent shift in just a tad more action over RPG elements, has me on the edge of my seat, wallet in hand, and just waiting for that last detail to say those 4 words, BioWare, take my money. God forbid I'd ever say that to Electronic Arts. Possibly the greatest reveal of all of E3 2016 came at the very beginning of a large and spectacular showing by Sony. Aside from a bit of orchestration, almost nothing built up the first reveal of the evening, which masqueraded itself as any other historical fantasy setting. Until, out of the shadows, stepped Kratos himself. I think it's safe to say we all felt a chill in the air at that exact moment. Like God of War or not, it's a series to be respected, and one of the flagship enterprises of the Sony license. And this new kind of third-person perspective for the series is something I can get behind. Literally. Although this is just the beginning with no release window in sight, we can only wait with bated breath for the next installment in the series. Let's just hope they don't pull a Kratos' kid and screw it up. Now for another indie title, and honestly, still one of the most aesthetically appealing games I've ever seen. When I first saw Cuphead at E3 2014 with hand-drawn cartoony graphics ripped straight out of the 1930s, also known as the golden age of animation, I couldn't help but think, this is pure genius. And I know I'm not the only one. As it turns out, Cuphead is a fast-paced run-and-gun shoot-'em-up with a bit of platforming mixed in. A fairly easy type of game to do right, as long as you've mastered pacing and kept things from becoming a little too frustrating. It's a great formula, if a bit dated, but dated is this game's specialty, from the looks of it, so if anyone were to take up that mantle again, I'm glad it's this little guy. Ever wanted to take Tomb Raider, The Witcher, and Killzone and roll them all up into one game? No? If you knew the end result would be Horizon Zero Dawn, then would you? That's what I thought. Guerrilla Games' latest IP is extremely impressive to say the least. A post-apocalyptic game with a setting more akin to that of the ancient world, except instead of dinosaurs, we have dinosaur robots. That's pretty cool. The gameplay we saw at E3 only further cemented this game's status as a must-have in the coming months. But despite all the spectacle and grandeur, this game still has to deliver. Only time can tell if it will. With hardly a presence at E3, Nintendo gave fans a few bones on Tuesday, with various RPGs including the much anticipated Pokemon Sun and Moon coming out later this year. Of course, all of that was overshadowed by the official unveiling of The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. As someone who has never been much taken with the Zelda series, having little nostalgia for it myself, I must say even I was pretty impressed with what Nintendo had to show here. The game seems to borrow elements from many open-world games. Many citing Skyrim, of course, but I do love how Nintendo is embracing the idea of freedom here. Apparently one can even run straight to the end of the game from the start of their adventure, and while it isn't recommended, it can be done. I must say, that's a bit bold for Nintendo in a series they usually play so safe. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Ubisoft is the king of broken promises. With games such as Far Cry Primal and Watch Dogs, they've shown us how even the most interesting and fresh ideas can be made as mundane and lazy as possible. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt one last time, if not for this man's sake alone. The idea of battling samurais and knights as a Viking is pretty damn cool in its own right, but if anyone can sell that idea better than the rest, it's the modern Viking himself. Look at that beard. Just look at it. Embrace it. In all seriousness, everything we've seen from For Honor promises a pretty darn good time. Intricate and tactical combat in all scenarios with a healthy dose of both action and RPG elements, all in a gloriously medieval setting. I can't say I'm not thrilled by the prospect at least. Deliver on the end result, and I think we're square. Though I was never made aware of this game during its Kickstarter phase, just a few months ago I heard about this strangely horrific game known as We Happy Few. An open-world survival game where you must escape a town filled with people so enveloped in their own denial that they're all hopped up on drugs just to keep it that way. And the best part is, they won't stand for anyone who isn't feeling the same way they are. Everything I'd seen before was pre-alpha footage, great in concept but not in practice of course. Now having seen the trailer and gameplay this past week, I can almost assuredly say this game is looking delicious. With an aesthetic much like that of Bioshock and Dishonored, the stretched out faces and exaggerated features of all the townsfolk only add to how unsettling this can all be. And with procedurally generated playthroughs, sounds like it's going to be a whole lot of chaotic fun. Unlike the last game, if there was ever a Kickstarter project I couldn't help but notice, it was that of the new game from Platonic Games, a brand new indie studio comprised mostly of former Rare employees, who've all been with the company since its heyday back on the Nintendo 64. Their first project, a game that pays perfect homage and potentially even updates that formula we all miss oh so much from the games such as Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64. That game is Yooka-Laylee. Every time I see it, the game looks better and better. The character's more appealing, the level's more aesthetically pleasing, and while its release date has been pushed out of 2016, I think I can wait. But not too much more. It just strikes every nostalgic chord I could ask for, and while skepticism will always remain, I can't help but feel a little too optimistic about this game in particular. Going into this video, I don't think it was much of a question what my number one most anticipated game is, for anyone who knows me even remotely, that is. I'm not a sensitive man, but I can't say I didn't shed a few tears when that glorious trailer popped up for all to see in the early part of the Sony E3 presentation, featuring that dog/cat/bird and little boy we've been seeing for almost 7 years now, anxiously waiting for the moment when finally, October 25th, there it is. 10 years of development from the same team that brought us two of the greatest games from the last decade, and they're only two games for that matter. And it's all come down to this. Unlike the Duke Nukem Forevers and Aliens Colonial Marines of the world, we still have the same minds, the same team, and the same love and care here from start to finish. Can I say with solidarity that this game will be perfect? Absolutely not. But to disregard the expectations and anticipation I think we all have is utter silliness, even from the developers themselves. So much is riding on this game, arguably the most we've seen in a very long time. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.